Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
What? Where's our music?
Oh, those are yours. Oh, no wonder I can't hear. I thought, what fat head was in my... No, it was Potter.
Oh,
Potter was here last. Those must have been his. My God, you can't... It was like they were 2 inches out on both sides of my face.
Listeners, we're in the midst of a cabal here.
Hello, it's moi. That'd be
et moi.
And toi.
And toi.
Yeah, toi. Yeah. Or what's the more formal? It's
what is it?
two.
No, because two, but toi would be...
what? Move, two. Let's just go through the alphabet. One of them is going to be right.
No, wait. Loro is in Italian would be like for the formal U. What would it be in French?
Well, see, I always
vous.
Vous. Yeah, vous. And is there you don't need a formal for moi because
that's right.
I don't have to get formal with myself.
You are or you are.
I am simply moi.
Yes.
Hello, it's Lynn Cullen and Tom Sokolowski.
We've just smoked a reefer. That's why we're more inarticulate than usual.
Oh, dear Lord. So, nice to have you back. We missed you last week.
I was gallivanting. I love that word.
Yeah.
In New York. So
yeah.
it was
having
nice.
fun?
It was good, but it was hot as hell and humid.
Yeah. Although in New York, hot and humid is even worse because of all the buildings and it's just there's no relief. I mean,
that's right.
Although there is more. There are more trees. There are more trees and more opportunity to maybe get a breeze, it seems to me, in New York than there ever was.
What did Olmsted say?
I mean, like that High Line thing. You could
the High Line is lovely. But what did Olmsted say about? He said that Central Park was the lung of the city.
Well, it's true.
And it is. I mean, you think of that big and that
Can you imagine
park.
if that was all?
Oh, yeah. It was concrete.
Can you imagine?
And people do use the park because, they live in small apartments, so they... and that's nice, and dogs are there, and there are places for babies, and there is the Grand Mall for the opera, and then there's some rambles where gay people frolic, or they used to.
Excuse me?
Well, it's very well known. I mean, it's not clandestine. But that's what's really nice about it. Everyone sort of allows everyone their own turf.
So, you think about that. The visionaries that deemed it an absolute right that there and if you look at a map of Manhattan, they carved out a huge
59th Street to 125th Street.
Huge.
No, 110th Street, and then cross blocks, 5 or 6 cross avenues.
Said no buildings. We're going to make this natural, and that was, I think, done in what, like 18.
Industrial Revolution. And maybe just a little bit after. But that's, you think about even in Europe, that notion of, I think with the Industrial Revolution, and this gets us where we talked a little bit about the opening of the Olympics, and they showed that. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Here was the Industrial Revolution, which was so brilliant, but it created, particularly in London, this smoke-clogged, crowded, whatever.
Dickensian hell. It's when he was there.
Right. And then they said, well, if we're going to have this, we got to do something, even just to keep the workers alive. That's what much because we love them.
So we could eke a little
more blood out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, very much our own Carnegie and Frick.
Well, we had it here. I mean, if the Industrial Revolution had a face in the United States,
it was Pittsburgh.
It was here. And there are people...
And then you have Schenley Park, which is very much...
Exactly
Well, or Frick Park. Well, no, Schenley.
Schenley.
Which is vast and a huge, wonderful park.
Right.
Except no one's ever in it, except driving through.
That's not true.
You don't find that many people strolling unless they're going like to a
That's not true. You don't know where to go.
Show me where the homosexuals.
That's right. There is a place where homosexuals frolic.
Yeah, especially
but I think they sort of closed it. I think they closed it down.
Oh, I see.
Oh, during ratings periods, especially Channel 2 over there with
Hansiger,
Marty. No, I think it was Marty Griffin who always gets all flipped out about this kind of stuff. He, they have cameras and they see, like furtive encounters and what's going on here, and then the cops start patrolling, and who the hell?
But really, I find there are vast bits of it, partly because people have yards and whatever, and they're not living in cramped little pokey flats. I just don't think people use it as they do in New York.
Well, no, certainly not, but they do use it.
Yeah.
And Frick Park is very used.
Yeah, that's true, because that's more.
And that's huge, too.
No,
so Pittsburgh also has that wonderful greenery and lungs.
Yeah.
So if, New York has one lung, we have two. And even more. We could afford to lose one, but we ain't going to.
We were talking a little bit earlier, or maybe it was just Jess and I, about the opening of the Olympics, and it was incredibly quirky. I mean, whereas the Chinese thing was astonishing just because of the amount of people all in such perfect sync. All the arms go out and then they smile.
Well, it was absolutely mind-blowing, and it was also technologically mind-blowing.
But this was really it looked at, I think, the periods of British greatness. And I remember one of the smarter newscasters talking about the fact that I think Britain has been the only country since the Olympics in the modern times has been, going on, who has had the Olympics for 3 times.
Right.
And the last time was just
1948.
Right, just post-war. And a lot of you, especially the younger listeners, don't know. I didn't know this until quite recently, that although Britain struggled through and made it through the Blitz during, the actual years of Second World War, they were in worse shape after the war, because that's when we were sending them tons of free food and stuff like that, and there were rationing coupons. So I think, so when there was the Olympics, it was the idea to say we have survived, but there was none of this frou-frou. And people stayed in, I think, what did they say, like schoolrooms?
Yeah, there was no buildings were built.
No built, right.
Athletes were told, bring your own towels.
That's right. Yes, I read that too. But that's sort of neat. I
think it's wonderful. And as a matter of fact, my mother was railing the other day about the waste. She said, here is a nation in the midst of a rather awful economic downturn, and yet they do find the money to put up all of these buildings, which will be useless. She said, what's going to happen to the swimming venue and this venue and that venue? Now, I do know that some of these venues were meant to be architecturally discardable.
Oh, really?
Right, where they are going to...
made out of paper mache.
Yeah, I can't figure it out, but I don't know which
Something
ones.
Something that you can cheaply take down, yeah.
Some of them...
Well, I remember Atlanta was one where they... And a friend who lives there was saying that really all the things that were the dorms have now become co-op apartments, etc. So they didn't spend...
Well, if you do reuse, that's fine. But it seems to me
How often can you use an Olympic swimming pool?
Exactly right. And as I said to my mother, they read the ones in control, always find money when they want to.
Of course.
I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with...
The queen sells a few crowns. Yeah. When she jumps... I loved.
I loved that.
I loved about it because some people were saying, one of the conservative members of Parliament, House of Lords, I'm sure, sort of said, it was a reeking spectacle of multiculturalism. But I thought it was great because what did they talk about? A great health system. And I mean, especially in this country that we're fighting over this stuff. The fact that people
They celebrate. They danced.
They danced. And then the Queen, Michelle Obama, I'm surprised she didn't go riding on a horse or something. But I mean, the Queen, who's usually so staid, and then just very funny, I saw her, and they showed something, and she said she was talking to Boris, whatever his name is, who's mayor of London.
Johnson.
Yeah, Boris Johnson. And she said, I haven't seen my bit yet.
Oh, she has?
And he said, ma'am, it was quite brilliant. You are quite brilliant. She said, good. It was great, though.
Yeah, it was funny. It just occurred to me that if somebody, because I had an email from somebody who said she just found the show, I want to more accurately, if she's listening, tell her who you are.
All right, fine.
Okay. Who the hell are you? You just wandered in here?
Just wandered in here. I'm a specter. I'm an incubus.
And, oh, my God. Tom Sokolowski came to the attention of us in Pittsburgh when he was anointed the director of the Andy Warhol Museum, post which he held for 100 years or so.
Yes, right, exactly.
And his imprint on that establishment, huge, and in fact his imprint on Pittsburgh, I think, huge as well, where he became this sort of, I don't know. What do you think?
Gadfly. Probably.
Yes, I would. Yeah, something like a gadfly. He says things that you're not supposed to say.
Yes, I do it very
loud.
So
do I.
And that's why we're perfect.
I know. I love you. I just love you. When I first started reading.
Do you know that on BBC TV, just to make a parenthesis here, there's this TV show called, it comes on intermittently for the last number of years, Two Fat Ladies.
Yes.
And there are these two huge women,
yes.
but very grown women, who ride on one of those motorcycles with the side.
Yeah,
right. And they cook, but everything they cook has lard in it and goose fat. So we should be like two loud mouths or something.
That's fine.
Two loud mouths on Thursday. Right.
However, I want to say that I have trouble getting a word in edgewise when this one's here. Okay, so...
In Italian, the word is chiacchierone.
Excuse me?
Chiacchierone. Chiacchiere is like...
Oh, like...
Yeah. So chiacchierone is a...
Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, cheep, talk a lot, pick a little more. That sounds like exactly that. Don't you know that song? You always know the song. Music Man.
Yes, that's right.
Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little.
No, but chiacchierone is more like a blabbermouth.
Okay, but it's onomatopoeic. Do you know that?
Yes, I know what onomatopoeic is.
Okay,
no,
say it again,
Chiacchiere. You now heard the typical Sicilian fishwoman saying her morning prayers.
How is that not onomatopoeic?
No, because it has to be multiple words, not syllables. A loose-lipped lady from Blistomania. I don't know. No, I don't think onomatopoeic has to be...
No.
Sure. It can be syllables.
A word. I don't know. Somebody look it up. If you can even spell onomatopoeic.
A word that sounds like what it means.
A word that sounds like what it means. Mm-hmm. Although it could be. You know what my favorite onomatopoeic phrase is?
Yes.
It's from a poem.
Okay.
From Poe's The Raven.
All right, tell us.
Okay, here it is, because you can hear what the lines are saying. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me.
Woo!
Silken, sad, uncertain rustling.
Fabulous.
Isn't that great?
That's
Isn't that
fabulous.
great?
That's
onomatopoeic.
And Lady Gaga could never do that. There'd be spittle all
No,
over
but I
the
think
microphone.
a word can be, like...
Maybe you're right.
I think
I'm
like
not
so
sure.
many Yiddish words are onomatopoeic in that they sound exactly... You don't have to know Yiddish. When you hear it, you know what it is.
Like putts.
Fetch.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering... I mean, obviously, I know what fetch means. I've fetched myself many times. But I'm just wondering if... Or another language like chiacchiere... That's more of an Italian sound. It's not like we don't have English words in that way.
Well, you know what's...
You'd have to know within the language what are the typical sounds, I think.
Women who talk a lot are often called... there's so many nasty names, but hens, right?
That's right,
and
yes.
what you... That chiacchiere, or whatever it is,
yeah.
sounds like...
Well, Maybe you're right.
Although I have a book at home
Yes.
that's a child's book, although my child was never interested in it, but I'm fascinated by it and remain so to this day. And it's a book that tells you what animals say in other languages. In other words, why...
moo.
Yeah, right. Like we'll say a cow says moo.
Oh, now what would they say?
And then you'd be surprised what, like let's say in Denmark they say a cow says because it sounds nothing like moo. Although some of them sound a lot alike. But dog barks
wouldn't it? Because, I mean,
no.
moo, that's what the cow says. And moo. If you said it's like clicky.
Okay, I'm going to try.
Well, let's see, all right, cow. Vache in French is cow.
No, but what's the sound? Do you know any of the sounds?
I'm trying to think.
Or like a pig. What does a pig say? You can't. I lived on a pig farm. It doesn't say oink.
Well, that's true, too. But moo, though, there really is. It's not even, it is a sound. It's not
Here's
even,
one, though, that's hard to put in words.
Okay.
What does a dog say? And that's why we have arf.
That's right, arf.
We have, what else do we have besides arf? Dog says woof.
Woof.
Okay, woof, arf. Now, they both end in F, but
maybe.
Woof.
Yeah. Well, now here's a good point, linguistic point. Maybe Ray will tell us.
Meow. You would think that'd be pretty
But now
much.
what's the difference? Like, for example, arf and woof. That actually is the sound, the syllabization, if that's a word, of the. But when you say a dog barks, that is a descriptive, as opposed to something that really maybe that is onomatopoetic.
Right. And I'm saying that like arf and woof are
meant to be. Yeah, right.
Although whether or not they are, I don't know.
I've never read in like Italian things or French things
with those sounds and animal sounds in it.
Right.
E-I-E-I-O. You never heard Old MacDonald had a farm in French?
No, I don't think they would sing it.
Well,
although they have their own crappy little songs.
Well, we know little French songs and little
we do.
Yeah, there is a little French song that we all know. What is
Alouette.
it? Alouette.
Gentil alouette. Alouette.
J'entends plumeray. What does that mean? J'entends plumeray la tête. J'entends plumeray la tête. Ma tête, la tête. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, plume is pen, but I'm not plume.
What does alouette mean?
Well, that's a name, I think, of a person, like a little something. Alouette that's a person.
What's gentil alouette?
Hello, French-speaking person.
Help! Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, what's her name? Oh, God. John, Allison's wife is French.
Yes.
What is her name?
John Allison's wife.
What is her name?
That's okay. There's plenty of people out there.
No, what is the hell's her name?
Isn't there somebody out there who's, what? Our audience is made up of Americans. They don't even speak English well.
Speak for yourself.
Well,
Queen.
okay, but I mean, like you can't. You're not a normal American, in that you.
Oh, well, I would agree with that completely.
That's right. You lived abroad.
And you are abroad.
So you speak. It's
well, on the subject too. We've talked a little bit about this, but
French Canadian song.
It's a French Canadian. That explains.
As the French would say, that's not French at all.
You know what? On the synchronized diving. You've been watching that?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're standing there, and then they have to count 1, 2, 3 before they go in. So you hear the Americans go 1, 2, 3, and then I just cracked up when the Mexicans got up and said, uno, dos, and then I wondered what. And then the Canadians, and I was surprised by this, said un, deux.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I said, oh my God, they're must
bilingual.
Be French Canadians.
Jess
has more information.
Alouette means lark.
Lark.
And she's saying, I will pick your head. But then she goes on to say, I'll pick your beak.
I'll pick your head? I'll pluck at your head.
Pluck your head.
Speaking of...
And then you're...
Okay. And then, in other words, so it's about an animal literally eating a human being? Pecking away?
So it's a woman. Or not a person.
It's a person?
Oh, it's like a chicken bucking song?
It's saying, lark, nice lark.
Lark.
Nice lark. I'm about to pluck your head.
And then your beak.
And now I'm going to pull your beak out. And now I'm going to... That is the most disgusting thing I ever heard.
Well, but think about that Mexican song, La Cucaracha.
What does that mean?
Cockroach.
Oh.
La Cucaracha. Buenos dias, coming down, running around all the time.
Cucaracha, la cucaracha.
Marijuana. Oh, yes, because the cockroaches smoke marijuana.
They do?
And so it's great. Well, the song says it.
Does it really?
Yeah. Because the cockroach is running around because it smokes marijuana. Although marijuana usually makes you soporific, not...
who knew all of this?
All our children are singing these songs.
My God.
In these multilingual... That's why they shouldn't speak those languages.
Well,
If
you look at children's songs, I mean...
They're always silly.
I mean, not necessarily silly. They're... what's the one... that comes from
they're also very violent.
From the plague. What's the one that comes from the plague?
Oh, right, the Ring Around the Rosie.
Ring Around the Rosie. Pockets
right.
full of posies, ashes.
Yeah.
We all fall down.
I didn't know
absolutely.
About 10 years ago, and the Rosie was the rash.
The rash that appears. Pocket full of posies. Was it because they used? I think they used flowers to keep the stench out of the rotting bodies. Ashes. We all fall.
Yeah,
down.
bodies being burned. Yeah.
And that's what. And it became like this.
Yeah.
Ring around the rosy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, how odd.
Well, also, I thought what you were going to say, but it's much in the same
like fairy tales, grim fairy tales
they're
are
so grotesque.
frightening. They're terrifying.
Eating people and bashing. What's the one?
Well, they're aptly named the Brothers
Hansel
Grimm.
and Gretel.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You guys on TV this last season. I think both are being renewed. There are two shows. One is called Grimm, and the other is called Fairy Tale or something.
Yeah, that use
their real life, and they're really. I mean, it's TV loves violence and supernatural stuff, but they're really people like eating other people's heads.
I remember thinking really when my son was very young, and I started thinking, oh, I'm supposed to read him fairy tales. And I actually stopped. I thought they were so horrific. I couldn't believe it. It's like, what? What are we trying to do? Populate.
Oh, here that we got the whole...
Lark, nice lark, lark, I will pluck you. I will pluck your head and your head. Alouette, 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 gentle lark. I will pluck your beak.
Now I have to, as a...
And your feet, and your tail.
Well, but
nice lark, I will friggin' kill you dead.
I just wonder... As a historian, I mean, I'm not a French historian or a musical historian, but I'm just wondering here, it must be, they know what alouette is a lark, but it seems
Jim.
Almost it's like a song like someone might do while they're plucking a bird that you're going to cook, but I don't think you cook larks.
Oh, if you're hungry enough.
Well, all right, fine. But I mean, it's not like a quail or, whatever.
A lark seems like one of those birds
that chirps.
You should be protected in some manner. Right.
Or put in a cage like the Chinese princesses or whatever.
What are we talking about today, for God's sake? We haven't even gotten into the show. What is the show?
This is the apéritif.
Oh,
no, the amuse-bouche. Since we've been so much about French. The amuse-bouche. Have you ever just been served?
Bouche means mouth.
Yeah, but what this is it's...
happy mouth?
No, it's sort of. I mean, literally. But what it is, started out, they've had in France for many, many years, but with, cooking getting so fancy that many expensive restaurants, even before if you're going to be a really formal diner, you have, an appetizer, and then you have a first course, then you have a second course.
And then you declare bankruptcy.
Right, exactly, and then you fall down. And cheese course, then dessert. Anyway, but what the fancy restaurants do is to just charge more, but they always, this is just a gift of the chef. But it's usually one thing, like one oyster. Or one little thing covered with a little bit of caviar.
There are some restaurants here that will do that. You're sitting there and all of a sudden they bring you something just from the chef. And you always feel so special. Oh,
and then the bill comes for $145 a person. It's like as if the chef would come up and belch at the end. Didn't you feel that way about my...
Oh.
It's so crazy.
So you're watching the Olympics?
Yes. Oh, yeah, well, off and on. I mean, some of the sports I like. But you don't think it's so awful in the sense that, here's Michael Phelps, and now he's won more medals, and he has, 2 more to go or something. But he loses that one race. He comes in 4th. And all of a sudden, and then they had someone who they showed an interview with him, which had taken place before the Games, and how I guess after the last Olympics, when he had this huge cache of medals, gold medals, he then went into, I guess after the picture with him smoking a bong, and some whatever one of his the people that was had him.
Oh, so were they suggesting that because he smoked some pot that he was no longer a great athlete?
No. But the point was, so then that he got a little deflated, his ego was, and then he went through some serious depression for a couple of years.
Well, that's often the case.
Well, no, sure, it's like postpartum in a sense.
Exactly right. Post-coital.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, after you reach the climax, everything that you wanted. There's a letdown.
There's a letdown.
That which goes up must come down.
Yes, and isn't that maybe onomatopoetic?
Yes.
Visually.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Well, it's more of a masculine thing.
Well,
it didn't
that's
occur
true,
to me.
too. That's
but I know
true,
my brother got a extraordinary review.
I thought you were saying extraordinary erection. Hello, Mr. Law Professor.
Got an extraordinary review from the New Republic, and he was just high as a kite, and then within 24 hours,
they got a bounce review?
He just fell. He woke up the next morning and could barely get out of bed. It was like total depression. Wow. Isn't that odd, though?
Well, have you seen yet, or listeners, this new Woody Allen film, To Rome with Love?
No, and I'm going to avoid it.
It's charming. But anyway, since you're not going to go, I can spoil
No, you can't spoil it for everybody else.
Yes, I can.
Okay, spoiler alert.
It's not spoiler. This is like, what it's about, as in Woody Allen films, for those who go to them, they're often not one party line, one story, but many stories they interlock. Yeah. Well, there's one instance where there's, what's the guy's name? Roberto Benigni, who's an Italian guy.
Who I still have not forgiven for jumping all over the seats at the Oscar Awards.
Well, anyway.
And I thought that film he won for was crap.
Oh, well, okay, but he's beloved.
Let's laugh our way through the Holocaust.
Yeah, well, anyway. So, he plays this schmuck who works in a business, office or something. Yeah. And all of a sudden, he's picked up by the press. They appear at his front door and they say, "Oh, Miss Cullen, what did you have to eat today?" "Oh, she had cheese." And he becomes this overnight sensation, and the prime minister is going with him to dinner, and all of a sudden, and then after 3 weeks of this, all of a sudden, he's standing there and another guy comes out of a door and they say, "Mr. Sokolowski, what did you have for breakfast for today?" And he's totally dropped.
Right.
And his wife says, "Oh, isn't that good? Now we can back to our life." And he's just ranting and raving. He takes off his pants and says, "See, I'm so-and-so." And no one's looking
No one will look.
I mean, it's the quintessence of Warhol's 15 minutes.
Exactly right.
But it's very clever the way it's done.
What? Okay, I was just saying, so it's a pre-appetizer is what it would be called. We should take a break. Yeah. Okay?
D'accord.
Okay. D'accord. Okay. That's what is that called? It's like a mind spasm. It's like all of a sudden I'm not here. I disappeared.
Well, some people say, what's that horrible, I hate that expression, a brain fart?
Yeah.
That's really gross. I just had a brain fart.
Did you like Rowan Atkinson in the...
I've never really loved Rowan Atkinson. I mean, he really is the quintessence of that...
British humor.
Well, not all, but that vaudevillian...
I loved him at the keyboard.
It was cute, but it went on a little long.
Maybe so, but he was able to sustain it with the extraordinary plasticity of his face.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Okay, we got to take a break.
I thought we were broken.
No, broken we may be, but we're going to be back in a minute.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Laser Hair and Skin Center has been providing professional, affordable services for over 10 years. Now they're proud to exclusively offer RegenLite acne treatment. RegenLite is an FDA-approved, non-invasive drug, chemical, and pain-free treatment of all grades of acne. With RegenLite, you will experience a 50% improvement in less than 2 weeks, with lasting improvement for up to 12 weeks. Call the Laser Hair and Skin Center today at 412-373-1700 and receive $100 off your first session. Or go to mylaserhair.com for more information and to see their full line of services. The Laser Hair and Skin Center.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Go to BurkeBargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh. This week, get half off monthly memberships to Club One Fitness. BurkeBargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. BurkeBargains.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Hello, here we are. I just remembered I wanted to run by a Gore Vidal quote about Andy Warhol for Mr. Sokolowski here. Do you see it?
I saw it when you flashed.
You did? You did?
It says...
Andy Warhol is the only genius I've ever known with an IQ of 60.
Well, that probably was true.
What?
Well, no, but IQ, well, I guess it depends how you defend IQ. Because I don't believe Andy would have, if he took
an
these
IQ test,
tests, have done well. It was all
He graduated from CMU.
So, what all those people who graduated from Penn State in the sports program, all they can do is make baskets. I mean, it was art school. I mean, and no, it was interesting. In the first year, Andy was supposed to be kicked out of what was Carnegie Tech.
Carnegie Tech, right.
And then some people said, oh, we'll work with him, etc. And this was both for, they thought he was remiss in his art, but also he was not doing well in his academic subjects.
Okay. So he wasn't
He wasn't good at book learning, but I mean, he was a genius. But no, I was going to tell you about Gore Vidal. When I was in Rome in the mid-'70s, Gore Vidal lived there.
Yes,
and then he had this beautiful house.
Oh, this amazing house. Geez. Up in the...
No, it was right on the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah, on the coast.
Yeah.
But it was up.
That's right, on the face of the cliff below Naples and Sorrento. But anyway, he had an apartment in Rome where, that he could do real things. So anyway, I taught there for a program called the American Center for Classical Studies, and all the best and brightest people at American universities could go for a semester or a year abroad to study archaeology, ancient languages, ancient art, paleography, and he was invited. They would have these literary evenings. And so a friend who was there, was a faculty that year there, I was just an adjunct, invited him to speak. So I was, mobbed because it was Gore Vidal. And so I came late, and I sort of sat in this funny chair where I could see into the next room. And they were using it like the, proverbial green room. And there was Gore Vidal. It was so funny. So, but here are all these pimply students from Princeton. They're all there more to have sex and drink wine, which they could do. They couldn't do in America. And I remember we'd always have to go to the jail to get them out. These students. Anyway, but I could see Gore Vidal. But so this was not. He was not speaking at Carnegie Hall.
Yes.
But it shocked me because he was by then. He had to be in his 50s then. He was visibly nervous. You could see his hands, and it wasn't Parkinson's.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm serious. Wait. So he came out then, and you could again tell he looked he was Gore Vidal, but he wasn't sort of great bravado. And he started talking, and for the first minute or two, he was very sort of tense. And then he got his wind.
He found his...
and then he started telling funny jokes.
Wow, that is surprising.
It was really interesting. Well, I think they always say, the best performers, and he was performing, are always nervous.
Well, I think you should be.
Another.
Yes, I mean, I've told people that
life upon the wicked stage.
No, I've said I'm always nervous before I get, and people always say, how could you be nervous before you give a speech? You give speeches all the time.
Yeah, it's your life.
And yeah.
No, I know, because
each one's different.
Well, but I know I lecture a lot for my life, and
you don't want to bomb.
Well, because sometimes I've done where I say, I know this enough. I don't prepare too much.
Right.
And then you're up there and you're just thinking, all right, they don't necessarily know, but I'm not on tonight, and it's flat.
Yeah.
You need that sort of...
That's right.
But anyway, so afterwards, he told some funny anecdotes and whatever. So then most of the kids went to, knock up some girl or go to drink. And a few of us stayed around, and we sort of had a brandy with him. And we chatted for about half an hour, and he was charming.
I bet.
But I remember what he talked about afterwards was how often he gets asked, and he has, conversely, asked other people to write those blurbs on the book
books,
jackets.
Writing blurbs.
Oh, and he talked about something he had done, and then he said, and I'll share some because I remember them that I do, but they were never published. And they were some of the meanest.
Yeah, I bet. Well, he was very...
and he could do it in multiple languages, or he'd use a Latin word.
And that's a guy who never went to college.
Right.
Never went to college.
But partly, he was very smart, but also, he was to the manner born.
Yes, he had a very unusual upbringing, though.
Yeah,
he used to read to his blind grandfather, who had been a senator.
That's right. Auchincloss, wasn't it?
Gore.
Oh, that's right.
He's related to Al.
That's right.
Yeah. Gore. And sometimes he would go down, and his grandfather wanted to hear the congressional record.
God, can you
so this poor kid, as a kid, he's reading the congressional record.
The honorable gentleman from Ohio suggests pigs' future should be reduced or something.
Lynn says, Chris, since you and Tom usually talk pop culture, wanted to know if you saw a story on Tippi Hedren and her experience working with Alfred Hitchcock. I saw it, but I didn't read it. Pretty interesting how this I've known.
Yeah.
He sexually harassed her while she filmed The Birds and Marnie. There's a film coming out on HBO called The Girl about what she went through while filming. She and Vera Miles refused to work with him again. She said if it were today, she would have sued him for millions. Yeah, I think that was known. Hitchcock.
Well, who else he knocked up, as they say?
Grace Kelly.
Grace Kelly, yeah.
Listen, it was quite clear what kind of woman turned him on. Look, the icy blonde.
Chicks are bitches.
Yeah. You look at the icy blondes that he had. Kim Novak. She was a little less icy.
Yeah.
She had a little more passion.
But, he also said about actors that he basically wanted them to not emote, but he was like, walk this way, 1, 2, 3, turn left.
He didn't have a lot of respect for actors.
No, he didn't.
But, those were the days, when any woman...
who wanted to make it.
I'm sorry. That's the way it was. I'm sure there were some directors and producers who didn't take advantage.
Oh,
but
sure, yeah. But
I suspect that a whole heck of a lot of them did. Tippi Hedren, by the way, gave rise to... Her daughter is...
Oh, yes. Melanie Griffith? No.
Yes.
No. Yeah. Well, I can add to this story, Chris and Lynn.
All right.
When I was in New York and was doing a lot of AIDS work, we decided to have a huge AIDS benefit, and the theme was going to be around a very, very famous party that was given in 1907 called the Dada Ball. No, the Blind Man's Ball. And it was held at Webster Hall, which still exists and is now a rock venue. And, it's written about all these people, did wild things there, and so-and-so played the violin, of all the most famous writers and thinkers, whatever. So we secured this, and the person who's still alive who was there was a woman who's now dead named Beatrice Wood, who was the most sublime. She was a sort of ingenue at the time, but in subsequent years she became one of the most amazing potters in the world, lived in Ojai, California, and was at that time, this was the Blind Man's Ball was like, oh gosh, 90? I can't remember, but it was...
I think I read her obituary, not too...
Well, it's
been a while ago. Okay,
no,
but yes, right.
And I remember I once ate at a collector's house who had his whole dinner service, and it was all ceramics covered in gold leaf. Oh, it was fabulous. But she was this wild, wacky old sort of like anti-MAME woman, and she couldn't travel to be, so she did a movie for us, and the party was foul. I'll tell you a little bit more in a sec. But anyway, so she did this thing, and she wore like scarves and that. Oh, I hope you kiddies are all having a nice time, and some girl takes off her bra. And but anyway, so she couldn't come, but one of her best friends was Tippi Hedren. And she said, I will send you Tippi to be my, So I and a couple of us, we had to squire Tippi around. Tippi seemed a little tipped over.
Tipsy.
Brain damage. Like one time we told Tippi, we're now going, I'm going to go shopping first. And there was this whole buffet lunch with all these people planned. She showed up like 3 or 4 hours late. But she also has been very involved with providing a shelter. I think she's put lots of money for injured wildlife, like injured lions or whatever they fly.
How about some of all those birds that were killed in the making
movie.
of the birds?
Right, exactly. But this Dada Ball was fabulous because what we did was we got famous artists of the time to work with famous pastry chefs in New York to create these desserts, because we didn't want to do a dinner. So I remember one of the desserts was a huge, hyper-realistic fanny without any garment on. And the way you got your dessert was you had to stick your hand through the rectum, and then you were given like a delicious bonbon. Another one was a man, the Bill T. Jones, the black choreographer, dancer.
Yes,
huge and quite endowed, shall we say. He wore a dress made out of Christmas ornaments, but with nothing underneath it. And you had to stand and stick your hand up his skirt to get some. Oh, was another one made...
You gay people.
Well, we weren't all just gay people. But the other person took a condom, real condom, so you could use it, and then it stood up. It looked like a huge dildo, an eclair. And it was hilarious. It was one of the greatest parties we ever did. Made lots of money and had a great time, and it was historical recreation of this famous thing. So there we are with Tippi.
Tippi. So when was this? She wouldn't have been.
This was like, she was no kid. Tippi must
she'd
have
be
been
in her 70s or 80s.
No. I would say maybe maybe early 70s. Okay. I mean, she still looked. She was a handsome woman.
Yes.
She may have had a little face work, but not really. But it was very interesting because I have to say that when I met, I'm going to sound like such a star fucker today. But when I met.
Well, no one was a star like Gore Vidal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that's what.
But he really only liked genteel stars. He didn't like, exactly. He didn't like trash with flash. But anyway, it was very much like when I met Farrah Fawcett, who was a lovely, lovely, wonderful woman, but she had this sort of presence, and she'd say things like, "Oh yes, like that's like Judy's speech in such and such a play that she was in." I talk about King Lear, honey, and we know it. Somehow that removed sense of, and not that they were, but that they were on a higher.
Yes.
They floated.
Yes. Hey, I hate to give you this. There's a P.S. from Robert. I missed the intro. Who is that gentleman sitting on your left?
The Prince of Siam. Getting to know.
Getting to know.
And I'm bald enough to be, except I'm not Yul Brynner.
God knows.
But I was sort of.
Well, let me tell poor Robert who the hell you are.
Wait, before you do, that supposedly Yul Brynner from he became totally impotent after eating, like, what was the dish? When he was very young, he was impotent for the rest of his life. Eating chow mein, yeah.
Come
no,
on.
It's true.
It was in a
biopic.
How do you become impotent after chow mein?
Well, I guess there was something in the chow mein. I mean, and it wasn't MSG. No, that was in a biography. It's official.
Oh, just because you read it, it's right?
No, it wasn't what do you call those things? A vanity biography. It was actually a rather good one.
Okay.
But anyway.
The gentleman to my left is Tom Sokolowski.
Thank you.
But that's not...
Raconteur.
Raconteur.
Bricoleur.
Who?
Like a bricolage in French is the word for like someone
bricolage, like
who
the
puts
theater.
things together.
Yeah, right,
like
right.
a collagist.
Yeah. And
a person grandly full of shit.
Yes, in fact, that's true too. And the long-time director of the Andy Warhol Museum, a post that he vacated about 2 years ago.
Yes, well, a year and a half, anyway.
Year and a half, but who's counting?
Who's counting?
And so now what he's been doing is simply raconteuring for a bit.
For a bit, with the raconteurs to my right.
Bricolaging and anything anything else, if you need a bon
Well,
vivant.
that's interesting. We brought up Bricolage, then the theater company. They have just started this ad for, I guess they're going to do this, and I'm not sure what it is. It's called something like That Consciousness, and they put out these ads and these cards. Maybe you got one in the mail, and you pay like $60 to go to this event, which is some sort of theatrical whatever. I haven't done it, but I hope to do so because I really like the company. But you call up, you say, I want to go on August the 6th, and then someone calls you like an hour before and says, go to 3rd Street and then some sort of event which sounds like Est, counterconscious theater, and in it there are discussions and you lead the way this event will go. It sounds really very weird. But what's his name? Carpenter, John Carpenter? No. What's the guy's name who's the head
At
of it?
Bricolage.
Yeah.
I'm blanking too.
He's really fabulous.
Yes.
I really like him very much. They do very clever things.
I met him not too long ago and was talking to him. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. But that sounds like not for somebody who just likes to sit and watch.
No. And like someone may sit in your lap who has no pants on.
I just hate that. I hate that. Oh, God, I live in terror of some actor, like choosing me to get involved.
But there is, if you're in New York, or we have a
call. Hello.
Hello, Lynn and Tom.
Hi.
George from Moon.
Hi, George.
Hello.
Hey, I hate to interrupt your train of thought there, Tom, but I've been wanting to call Lynn's program a couple questions.
Sure, fine.
Back to Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
I have a similar background with Andy. I had gone to the Carnegie Schneider classes.
All right.
For years at
Robert
Carnegie
Fitzpatrick.
Museum. I went to the pre-college thing.
Uh-huh.
And then after the Vietnam War, I came back and I went to Carnegie Mellon then, and was in the College of Fine Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up studying industrial design and sculpture.
Right.
Okay, and I knew little about Andy back then. This
Sure.
is like early 70s. But I had never been to the Andy Warhol Museum up until a couple months ago.
Oh.
Wow.
Yes, crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I did move on with my career. I didn't end up in art and design. I went into technology and worked in telecommunications engineering and fiber optics.
Oh, okay.
Because I like, because I studied industrial design, a mixture of technology and art.
If I may interrupt you 1 second, did you have any courses there was a really I can't remember his name now, a wonderful professor who taught Andy, and then just about the time you were there, I think it would have been one of the last years, what was his name? And we did a little show of his classes, because in the classes he would set the students to do these weird kind of little environments. Like one time he said, I want you to draw the inside of your house, or apartment, whatever, not the way it is, but the way you want it to be in your brain. And Warhol did one of these. We had one in the permanent collection, but there were a number of students who had done these in the area and sent them in. In fact, the man, Matt Weirbekin, who was the museum's archivist, has been that for 17 years. He was at Carnegie Mellon when you were, and he studied. He also was in the Robert Fitzpatrick's classes, the Tam O'Shanter.
Yes,
but I can't remember this guy's name who taught.
Well,
you know who I would guess it to be?
Yeah,
a remarkable professor who isn't given much exposure and credit. who was there and who started the industrial design program, but went on to become like an emeritus professor. And he passed away, I think, back in the 80s, and his name was Robert Lepper.
Yes, that's the one. Yes.
Is that the one?
He was a genius.
He
really
taught
wonderful.
I mean, he started the first industrial design course in the United States of America in the 30s. This is at the time of the Bauhaus.
Right, exactly.
And he taught me a number of courses too, but he never did the one on drawing your house as it is and to be. But he did a project called Oakland, in which you go out into Oakland and you draw various aspects of Oakland and then synthesize it as to how it works. I mean, the guy was an imaginative, cutting-edge professor well into his late years, and it was sad to see he had passed away back in the late 80s.
Well, it's interesting, just as a footnote to that, I remember when we did that show, which probably was like 7 or 8 years ago, as I recall, Matt found out, the archivist gentleman, that someone, I think, was working on a biography of Lepper. But what has come of that, I don't know. But, I mean, this little exhibition was wonderful because you could just see each one of these things drew out really interesting ideas from students. It wasn't just learn how to do something on, MCAT on the computer or something.
Before you guys do a footnote on a footnote on a footnote, can we get back to what George, why were you calling?
Yes, the question. Okay, I've become fascinated now with Andy Warhol. And when I went to the museum, I was stunned to see the sculpture of the punching bags.
All right.
And the religious theme. Now, I want to ask you, if you can, and I'll hang up after I ask the question, because I'll call you back next week and we'll talk some more, too, about this, because I'm now becoming very interested in Andy Warhol. I bought the book, The Religious Art of Andy Warhol, by Jane Daggett Dillenberg.
Dillenberg, yes.
And I'm just shocked at Andy's deep religiosity. On so many levels, the guy was an artist, first of all, which is like so contradictory often to religion. He was a free thinker. He was a free liver. He was an eclectic guy. And this book, written by Dillenberger, the first question I have is, and you're probably very familiar with it, it was written with a foundation grant from a graduate theological school at Berkeley.
Yes, her husband.
So it looks very scholarly. It's very good.
Just quick answer before you finish. Jane Dillenberger's husband, I can't remember his first name, but he's now deceased. And in fact, I met her once. She came to the museum, and she was really old back then. She may no longer be with us, but her husband had died. But he was one of the preeminent theologians in the Episcopal faith. He might have even been an Episcopal priest, but I can't remember. But that department is very renowned at Berkeley.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But here's my question. One is this? Well, first of all, if you could just give me an overview of what you think the actuality of Andy's religious or philosophical points of view of life are they in accord with the literature like this that's being put out, or are there alternate views of his philosophic point of view? And where do you stand on the subject?
Okay.
I'll hang up.
All right. Well, I'm not a particularly religious person, although I was raised as one. Well, basically,
can you do this in a tweet?
Yeah, I do the tweet. Andy, his religion, his philanthropy, and his sexuality, all very deep-seated things in all of us, which many people, especially in our day and age, should make public in every possible way. Those were all things that Andy kept private. So, specifically what theological tracts he followed, etc., who knows? But we do know he went to church at Mass every day of his life. He didn't necessarily stay for the whole thing, but he would go to Mass.
And this is Orthodox.
Yeah, well, he would either go to a Catholic Mass if that was all that was to be found, but there was a Byzantine Catholic church, which was what his family's religion was. And basically, he felt very deeply, and I think as many people follow Catholic Church, Byzantine Catholic Church, he had this sense of sometimes gloom and doom. You know, if your sin, you died without going to confession, you'd burn in hell. So many of the pictures talk about that. But I think for him, the idea was religion and a God that sort of looked out over people and provided us with solace at times was something that was probably not unlike your own religiosity. But I think when you look at the art, and Jane Dillenberger's book is a really good source for that, you do really see that it meant something deeply to him. But in a modern way, he could be gay and practice his sexuality. He could do things and have people around him who were drag queens and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that was not antithetical to religion for him. So, you know, a short shrift, that's my take on it.
Well, the popular culture psychology term is compartmentalized.
Compartmentalized. Or like, what was that song from that English group called Personal Jesus of some years ago? Depeche Mode, yeah. And basically, you know, they believed very deeply, but it was like their Jesus. It wasn't the Jesus of fire and brimstone of the Old Testament, whether Judaic or Christian. It was, you know, personalized Jesus. And I think religion, in my point of view, only lives when it morphs, and that doesn't mean getting weakened or whatever, but, you know, kosher laws were about animals that at the time made you sick. It wasn't about some weird, you know, rigmarole. Pigs and shrimp and things like that made you sick.
I know some rabbis who would disagree with that. However, we have to take a break.
All right.
Personalized religion. Who ever heard of such a thing? Goodbye. No, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper is now available on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com to read this week's digital issue or search for restaurants, bars, concerts, events, and movies on any portable device. Plus blogs, Lynn Cullen, City Guide, CPTV, and Best of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com. Get Lynn Cullen live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay. One of our emails says, MSG is akin to saltpeter?
Margaret, I don't like Big Brother.
Thank you very much. That was short and sweet.
Oh, should we talk about to end on a sober note, but
this wonderful
sort of
man,
one.
and I wish I'd known him. You find somebody dies and you think, oh dear, and I never.
If only I had known him.
didn't cross paths with him.
Yeah.
This is the man who died in this
freak
sort of mysterious bicycle accident. Of course, it was a charitable endeavor that he was engaged in. And he was only, 55 years old. His name is Mark Schneider. And he's one of these people who has helped in many ways to remake Pittsburgh, to make it a better place and a more vibrant place.
He worked very closely in the three administrations of Tom Murphy and was instrumental as head of the...
He was a visionary.
So the Stadium and Exhibition Authority, building the two stadiums, building the convention center, and I first crossed wings with Mark early on.
Well, he's the one who looked at Hare's Island, which was a...
Yes, that's right.
Which was it was a stinky, disgusting place that had a rendering plant on it, I mean, and he said that can be something wondrous.
Right. And he did it.
And it's something wondrous.
And also he did the Somerset development
on top of a slag heap.
Right.
So this is a guy who would look at what everybody else would see as just dead land, dead space, and bring it to life.
Raise two lovely children.
By
it's
himself.
Very funny. One of the things I always like, this sounds like a terrible thing to say, but when someone dies who has been of great use to society, and you read, and his obituary is longer than, presidents. It really is quite moving. But, none of us, even our sisters or brothers or mothers, we never know the full person because we all share slices. And one of the things I sort of stepped out in bed this morning was some people who've been involved with the arts and education to a certain extent, but mostly the arts, have known, for 16 years when I first came here, that there was a person in Pittsburgh who was called the anonymous donor. And one person I knew who it was, someone who I won't mention, in one of the foundations, and you'd always call that person and say, oh, well, we have this edgy project. Do you think the anonymous donor might be interested? And this person would say, oh, well, give it to me and I'll pass it on. And it came out that Mark was the first anonymous donor, and I think that probably means, he had some money at some time and then maybe said, well, I can't do this anymore, and it's passed on to someone else who's doing it. And the idea was that this was a person who didn't want acclaim, and also from a practical, this was a busy man, didn't want to have hundreds of applications for dog runs and shit like that.
Didn't want his name on buildings and stuff. He just kept making things better.
Yeah, and so it's, we will mourn him because he was someone who was so full of life and so fun, because I would always say, oh, you're such a jock. I mean, he liked sports and all that, and he would laugh at that, but we both enjoyed cooking and food and wine, and he was the sweetest
He
person.
would hang out at the Morningside VFW.
Right.
Ride his Vespa to karaoke night at Ryan's Pub on Braddock Avenue. He seems like a man of the people, hanging out with all the shakers and movers.
But smart.
People like that are so rare.
Right.
They're so rare, and when we lose them in a premature way.
Well, only the good die young.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
But may he rest in peace, and in his next life be doing
it's
equally more wonderful things. Who knows where?
There's a memorial service for him being held at PNC Park. At PNC Park?
Yes.
And it says it's private, and I'm thinking, okay, private, but you could probably fill PNC Park with.
Well, I think it's probably going to be in one of those rooms.
one of the little rooms. But I mean, you could.
The effect he had in all these things,
if you want to see anybody and everybody who has to do with what Pittsburgh is, and they will be at this private event, including you. Mm-hmm. And it's, I'm sure it's going to be something. Mark Schneider. Jeez. And I, who spend my time plying the newspapers and talking about issues, I vaguely heard that name here and there. I didn't know who the hell.
He would have loved you because you're a wise ass just like I am, and he had a little bit of that in him, although he knew when to cork it. But he would have loved you, yeah.
Geez, and it's one of those things where I think, oh, damn.
Yeah,
didn't know.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
I mean, it's that whole notion, not to end on, we have to, but the notion of trying to figure out, I just have to talk about religion, what is the divine scope and who knows, and what is the divine plan? And, with someone, whether it was him or anyone else, or these two young people, it's interesting to end with this next few weeks, it's the bike whatever of Pittsburgh, and tomorrow, Sunday, there's some race, and not a race, just a biking whatever, and they're naming it in honor of him.
They're honoring him for
But again,
it.
too, there was just in the paper this morning, in addition to this, two young people who one was killed, and the other
not necessarily young, but they were middle. One was 50 something. She was killed by a freak accident.
Oh, that's right, the tire smashing on her.
But on Penn Avenue, right near my house, bicyclists are being killed on almost a daily basis, and something's got to be done. It is an outrage. And if you're a bicyclist, I have to tell you, I find Penn Avenue one of the more dangerous places in that neighborhood. Jess knows that street well. I do too. And it's one of those streets where if you're on one of the streets that crosses it and you get a green light, you don't go. You look real carefully for seconds. I mean, not people blow through there. And where have the cops been on this?
Well, but also
get control of that damn stretch.
But also, to be fair, I think I don't know if this is the right word, the rapaciousness, if you will, it's on both sides. I mean, maybe not so much here, but like in New York where I was last week, these cyclists zooming in and out of traffic are just they can't do as much damage because they're on a
and they're putting themselves at risk.
That's
right. There's absolutely irresponsible bikers, and there are irresponsible drivers.
I mean, why are we in such a hurry?
But the reality is a driver is capable of just snuffing out. I mean, a guy on a bike's got not a chance. I
remember once in New York when I was still living there, opening the cab door, and there was not much room, and this guy came and whammed into it, and fell over, and then he started screaming at me, and I said, "All right." I looked.
No, but
but he was going though, like at 50 miles an hour. I said, "You didn't have to be at that speed, honey."
I'm always amazed when a biker is so close to cars that may open their doors, because I will always look when I'm opening a door.
Yeah, no, I do too.
But lot of people
they're on their phone and they're pushing.
and you can take somebody out in a second. Yeah. Oh God, be careful.
Slow down, world. Rushing does not get you any further, and it can get you into the grave.
And rest in peace, Mark Schneider.
Dear friend.
I wish I'd known you. Dang it. But what you gave to this town has enriched my life, whether I knew you or not.
Amen.
Tom, good to have you back.
Likewise.
See you next week.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow. I'm very excited about this. Vanessa German is going to be on the show.
Oh, good.
And she is, I don't know how you describe her. She's
loud.
Loud?
I was going to say, well, no, she's straight up, but, oh, yes. I am low.
Well, she's a presence. She is an extraordinary presence.
Both what do you call it? Poetess, performer, but also makes sculpture.
Extraordinary sculpture, and she's more than that. She's part and parcel of trying, like Mark Schneider, to make Pittsburgh a better place. And we're going to be talking about her Love Front Porch movement that she's got going in Homewood, which is... I've spent some time on that front porch, and you can't do it and not be changed. So do not miss tomorrow's show.
And she, just a footnote, she is this year's, I think it opens...
Emerging Artist of the Year.
At Pittsburgh Center for the Arts.
Yeah. For me, she emerged long ago.
Oh, you would say that.
No, it's true. I'm a proud owner of one of her works. And absolutely. Tomorrow, don't miss it. Vanessa German. Okay? Toodoo.
Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.